So the Heineken Champions Cup is back on News Talk this weekend. We have live commentary of Munster against Harlequins this Sunday on Off the Ball. Delighted to be joined to look ahead now by Munster head coach Johann van Graan. Johann, afternoon. How are you today?
Daniel, I'm very good. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Well, look, it's the same competition. It's the same hype around it as we always have this time of year, but it's much different. It's a different looking competition. We've had to condense it and change things around just for this year on a one-off basis, and it's got a strange feel to it. We kind of don't really know what to expect from the competition, but we certainly know it's going to be tough all the way until January.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. The Champions Cup are always so special, and first up there was the previous few years 6 games, and now we've got 4 games. So not a lot of room for error. The thing that is still there is the quality of teams, and we've got 4 very tough games. Obviously, starting with Quins at home, and this is the competition in the club world that you want to be playing in, and it's certainly something very close to our hearts at Munster. And like I said, we're really looking forward to get cracking with it.
Two tough teams to play against as well in Harlequins and Clermont, but obviously I think what jumped out from most Munster fans when the fixtures were laid out, Gerry Flannery coming back to Thomond Park in the opening game, now involved with Harlequins. Have you spoken to Gerry since those fixtures were laid out and you knew you were going to be meeting up again?
No, I haven't spoken to him. Really looking forward to welcome him back. Real Munster man, quality coach, and he's made a real difference at Quins. And obviously he'll be coming back to Thomond Park, and we'll be going to the Stoop later on in January. So obviously Fla's got a lot of in-depth knowledge about Munster rugby, and it's his previous team. And come Sunday it'll be Munster versus Quins, and it'll be a big challenge for us.
You obviously worked with him for a couple of years. Aside from just a bit of inside knowledge about the players and about the style of play in Munster, what do you think he will have brought to Harlequins as a person and as a coach?
Look, firstly, he's a quality person. He really cares about players. Is valuable to any system that he'll be part of, and his detail in coaching. Obviously, he played a lot of international rugby, and he transferred that into top level coaching. So his attention to detail is brilliant. What he adds in different departments, it's not only about the forwards or only about the lineup. I'm sure he'll have an influence on that team all round.
Last season ended probably disappointing fashion with the nature of that defeat against Leinster in the Pro 14 semi-final. But ever since coming back a couple of months ago, 7 wins from 7. Really, really promising stuff. So you can't really be doing much better than 7 wins from 7. But also as well, a lot of minutes to some of the brighter young players at Munster as well. How important has it been for not only picking up those wins, but the involvement that some of these guys have been having over the last couple of months?
Look, it was obviously disappointing to lose in a semi-final. We went to Dublin to win, and we lost to the eventual champions, and they were quite clearly the best team in the Pro 14 last season. Starting with this season, we had that warm-up game at Thomond Park versus Connacht, and we played 38 players, literally 2 teams in 2 halves, and that kind of set the tone to involve everybody in the squad, and this was going to be a real squad effort. The international players were only with us for the first 2 games, and for the last 6 rounds, obviously our game against Treviso were set to a later date because of COVID-19. But like I said, it's been a real squad effort led by a very hungry group of players. You've got the experienced guys like Billy Holland and Stephen Archer, Tommy O'Donnell, JJ Anden, that's been there for a long time. But it's the guys that are just out of the academy, and the academy lads that have really driven us on. A lot of examples within that. Craig Casey, Ben Healy, John Hodnett had an excellent season until he got injured, and where the guys made their debuts like Jack Daly and Sean French over the weekend, or guys had more opportunities like Josh Wycherley and Diarmaid Barron, and everybody made use of those minutes. Someone like Thomas Ahern played his first 80 minutes for Munster against Zebra. So everybody contributed. Someone like Alex McHenry that came against Edinburgh had a really solid performance. Like I said, it's about the squad, and we want improvement week in and week out, and we believe that we've improved over the last few weeks.
One thing that stood out, I think for me in particular anyway, certainly around some of the academy players in the last maybe month or 6 weeks, is I think the attitude that some of them have, that they're not afraid, they're willing to stand up to people. I think the game against Glasgow probably jumped out where, it was a feisty enough game as the games against Glasgow often are, and there were a couple of off-ball incidents, but no one was backing down. And, sometimes you could see an academy player in previous years, for other teams even as well, who just might be a little bit shy in themselves, and they're growing into themselves as rugby players. But I think what's jumped out is they don't seem to be afraid of anything, and they're quite bullish in their approach.
Yeah, look, that's the exuberance of youth. That's confidence. That's belief, and all of those things comes from the last 2 seasons that worked really hard. Since the World Cup year, our academy have been training 100% of the time with the senior team. So obviously they're very involved in the team. They're very much part of the team. Everybody's got a voice in the group, and we are all aligned and pulling in the same direction. And then they are contributing on pitch with a lot of minutes, and that's given us a real edge in terms of not only our preparation off the field, but also our performance on the field. And if we look back over the last 7 games, we've had some really good performances. Some games we had to win in the 83rd or 84th minute, like the Scarlets game. The Edinburgh game, we had zero preparation, literally a captain's practice because of a few COVID cases. We played against a very good and confident Cardiff team, scored some fantastic tries. We went away to the Dragons in difficult conditions and beat them there. Came up against the rejuvenated Ospreys team, which I think everybody agree has been very good at the start of the season. Tough battle against Glasgow, like you said. Munster Glasgow games are always very tough battles. A team we respect a lot. And, we came away there with the 5 points and, a really solid performance on Monday night against Zebra. So, like you said, everybody is part of the group, and you need a lot of players to get through the season. Normally it's a long season. The COVID adds something else, and then with your national players away, you need players that step up, and the young lads have certainly done that.
One player who definitely has stepped up, I think most people would agree, is Ben Healy. Now, in the last week, there's been speculation about how the Glasgow Warriors are interested in him and how they might be offering him a contract. I know David Nusafora cleared up that contract situations, that these negotiations can't happen now until after Christmas. But have you spoken to Ben just personally about his own situation and just kind of sounding him out about what his thoughts are on it?
Look, I'm never going to get involved in contract talks. In the media, they're private and confidential. All I will say is Ben's a very important player to the future of Munster. Is a class individual, and hopefully he will stay at Munster. But there's a very clear directive from the RFU as to what we can and we can't do at this stage. And that's one brilliant thing about the Irish system is alignment between the national team, the RFU, and the 4 provinces, and we're certainly very aligned to that.
Okay, and then one other out half, obviously, Joey Carberry. How is his rehab coming along? Are you any closer to putting some sort of a timeline on it? How's he doing?
No, he's personally doing very well, working hard, but there's no timeline on Joey. Like we said a few months ago, we want him to recover fully. He's in good spirits, is contributing to the team, but there's no current update on a timeline.
Is there any kind of personal frustration you can see in him about how long it's taking?
No, I think quite the opposite. I think he's very positive. The fact that we took all the pressure off him in terms of a timeline, he's working day in and day out to get his body right. And No, I think that's the good thing about no timeline. It's not like, oh, he's got to be back for this date, and if it's not 100%, you kind of push the extra little you can every day. Is in the hands of our medical and our athletic performance team. We're doing everything we can at this stage. We've got a plan that we're working towards, and he will play when he's ready again.
I suppose the fact that you have people like JJ and Ben playing quite well, it does ease a little bit of pressure, I suppose, then as well about, oh God, we need to get him back quick. We need to get him back into this team when you have players like that playing well.
Yeah, look, firstly, Joey is an international flyer, so we'd love to have him back. Ben has had a really solid start to the season, kicking some big goals to win us games. I think JJ was excellent against Zebra. He's kind of had a stop-start season with one or two niggles, but he's really performed well, against Zebra. So you've got two youngsters in Jack Crowley and Jake Flannery that's certainly pushing as well. So we've got a good blend of 10s in our group. Rory Scannell can also back up as a 10 as we've used him before. So real good competition for the number 10 jersey at this stage.
And just finally for me, Johann, with the quality of teams in this Conference B for the Heineken Champions Cup and the teams you're playing against, Harlequins and Clermont, so much is probably going to be out of your hands by the time January comes around and quarterfinals are drawn off. But how brave do you have to be in these games? Like, do you have to turn down maybe some of the easier 3-pointers you might be offered to try get as many tries on the board?
No, I think one of the things COVID-19 have learned us is only control what's right in front of you. There's with the amount of things we had to adapt to, if we look too far forward, you might lose yourself. So we'll just focus on the first one, follow our process to hopefully get a positive result, move on to the second one away to Clermont, and then kind of readjust over the Christmas period, and then you'll know what you need to do in round 3 and 4, with round 4 being away to Quins at the Stoop. So if you look too far forward, like I said, you're going to take your eye off the ball. Only focus on what's in front of us right here, right now.
Johann, pleasure speaking to you, and we look forward to coming down to Thomond Park to see you in action next week.
Thanks, Neil. Have a great day.
So the Heineken Champions Cup returns this weekend, and it also returns here on Off the Ball on News Talk. We'll have live commentary of Munster against Harlequins coming up this Sunday, and I'm delighted to say now, to look ahead to it, I'm joined by Munster centre Damian de Allende. Damian, good afternoon. How are you?
Hi there. Good, thanks. Thanks for having me on the show.
It's great to have you on the show, Damian. You've been settled in Limerick now for the last few months. How have you found things? It's been a good start to this season as well. 7 wins from 7. But obviously we're into the real business now, the Heineken Champions Cup, a tournament that I'm sure a lot of Munster fans, if they've seen you around the place in Limerick, are keen to remind you how important it is for them.
Yeah, it's been incredible. Obviously, we've done very well over the past 7 weeks, going undefeated. But yeah, we know there's a bigger picture, and we got something. I wouldn't say a lot bigger, but we know the importance of the Heineken Cup coming up now. So we have built quite good momentum going into these games, and we know we getting a few of the Irish boys back next week. So yeah, it's going to be great. The competition is going to be a lot tougher. It's almost international standard. So the boys have spoken to me a lot about the intensity of the Heineken Cup. So I'm looking forward to that challenge myself, and hopefully we can carry on being undefeated going into the Heineken Cup, and hopefully we can start something incredible in that competition as well.
Yeah, it's been a really good unbeaten run to restart this season now. And as you mentioned, you'll have some of the Irish internationals coming back into the group for the games against Harlequins and Clermont coming up. But obviously you've been playing a lot in recent weeks and playing with a lot of guys that are still in the academy, or maybe just 1 year out of the academy, young kids who are probably only in their first year or two of proper professional rugby. How impressed have you been with the way that they've stepped up to the occasion? Because there have been some big performances, particularly that game against Glasgow a couple of weeks back. A lot of them, like Gavin Coombs, Jack O'Sullivan, Craig Casey, they're all really stepping up to the plate.
Yeah, I think it was obviously my first like real season here, and experiencing it firsthand, and the way the guys from the academy have actually stood up and taken accountability and stuck their hand up and wanted to be that guy that's going to take Munster forward. And I think it's very important that we get it right now when the Irish guys are away. And it will give not just the Irish guys coming back, but it's just given everyone so much confidence, so much belief with what we're doing and what we want to achieve in the long run. And I think it will make the Irish guys coming back their jobs a lot easier. Just coming back to Munster and just fitting into the system again. Where if it wasn't going all that well and we were struggling with a few games and not playing well, it would be a bit of pressure on the Irish guys. So I think them coming back and getting into the Munster culture again and just understanding how the guys have been working these past 7 weeks, I think it will be a lot more appreciated. Knowing that the guys that are still young, they're still putting their hands up and they want to be that next guy in charge. So,
on a personal level, how are you settling in Limerick? I'm from Limerick myself, and I've never been to Cape Town, but I can only imagine the difference between, you know, November or December in Cape Town versus November or December in Limerick. How have you found that? I see you're wearing your jacket on Instagram and everything. You seem to be well wrapped up a lot of the time. The coldness and the weather probably is the biggest adjustment, is it?
Yeah, it's a lot different to what I'm used to. I think for the past 2 or 3 months, I haven't worn shorts to training. It's just all been long pants. So it has been very cold. Sometimes I'm even training with 2 jackets on because I really am not used to it. I mean, a lot of people told me before I came here, they said it gets very cold. I thought they were just like trying to over-exaggerate and trying to scare me a bit. And then I was like, okay, they actually are telling the truth. It's very cold. But yeah, it's been great. Obviously, I haven't experienced Limerick properly because of the lockdowns and things not been open properly yet. So I hope I can experience it properly. Like the boys have explained to me, they said they would love for me to see Clermont Park on a Heineken Cup day, so like sold out and the flags flying, people singing, and I would like to see that energy, but not just at Clermont Park, but around Limerick. And I think hopefully soon it will get to that point where I can experience the proper culture of Limerick and Munster and just feel the energy around the city and around the stadium. So I'm really looking forward to that. But other than that, it's been great. It's been very easy for me to settle in. The guys have been very welcoming, and I'm just felt like I can be myself, and that's been the easiest thing for me. And once I am myself, I can just enjoy what I do and love what I do. And yeah, I don't have any issues.
Has anyone been teaching you about hurling? Obviously, Limerick will be in an All-Ireland final on the day you are playing against Harlequins. Do you have your Limerick jersey yet?
No, not yet. But I think if we win, I'll just jump on the bandwagon and I'll get a jersey.
Obviously, you know, we mentioned at the top of this conversation that Munster, big history in this competition, and there are always expectations, but it is going to be really tough with these games, Harlequins and Clermont, and obviously so much is going to be out of your hands with how the remaining games in your pool are going. Yeah,
it's a lot different to what the competition used to be like. Obviously, it's my first time playing the competition, so it's quite tough to say what difference there will be. But I just know, like watching it in the past, you have to win all your games to have the best qualification. So I don't think the mindset changes for us personally, where we're not worried about what happens with the other games. We know what we have to do. We want to do our job right, and that's to win. And I think if we just get our processes right and we believe in what we do, like we have this past 7 weeks, and just win the 4 games, then the rest is out of our control. We can't control any other games. So we must just do our processes and enjoy what we're doing and believe in what we're doing, like we have been, and win our 4 games, and that's just the most important thing, and then we'll see what happens after that.
You got your first try in the last game against Zebra. It must have been a nice feeling. How do you feel your own game has been over the last couple of months? Are you happy with where you are on the pitch?
Yeah, I was speaking to Coach Steve and Coach Johann about it a bit when I was playing more outside centre with Rory inside centre, and it's like, I think for me it's just a bit different. I got a good understanding and a good feel for the game, but I just didn't feel like I was that involved. So I felt like I was playing decent rugby, but I felt like I probably wasn't getting involved or making enough tackles or getting my hands on the ball enough at 13. And I was more watching what's going on the field and not just reacting and being decisive. So this past week, it was very nice to play inside centre again. So obviously I got a good feel. The game's a lot closer to you at 12 than what it is at 13. Sometimes at 13s I felt I was just away from everything a bit, like the collisions and like the involvement in the game around ruck time and stuff like that. So, but other than that, it's been great. I think it's been very easy for me to settle into the Munster squad because I know how Coach Johann works, and I've worked with him at the Springboks. So I understand his mindset, and it's just me coming in here and understanding the game plan and expressing my own ability on the field as well.
Well, Damian, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, and the very best of luck next week against Harlequins.
Thank you very much. Been a pleasure. Nice to meet you.
So one of the teams Munster are going to have to overcome if they want to get through to the last 8 of this season's Heineken Champions Cup are Clermont, Auvergne, a team Munster know a lot about. So to look ahead to those games, round 2 is the first of those meetings between the pair in France. But a man familiar with Munster, and also notably as well, a man familiar with winning at Thomond Park, is Clermont Auvergne number 8, Fritz Lee. Fritz, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
As I was mentioning there, you're a man who knows what it's like to win against Munster, but notably, you know what it's like to win at Thomond Park. You were part of that December 2014 victory. First French side to ever win at Thomond Park in the competition.
Yeah, it's obviously not an easy task to go over there in Munster and win over there. So it's quite fortunate that we had quite a few experienced players during that time that we played them in Munster. And it was a big win for us, and we're looking forward to another big fight against Munster in Munster.
Yeah, and I was looking back at some of the highlights from that game last night when I knew I was going to be speaking to you. And like what did stand out was at full time, like the reaction amongst all of the Clermont players was pretty big, because, you know, I'm sure some of your teammates had been around in the kind of 2007, 2008 when the sides had met a few times as well. There was a decent little rivalry developing. You'd beaten Munster the season previous in the semi-final, so there was a bit of a rivalry there, and you know, you clearly knew the importance of actually getting one over Munster at home.
Yeah, previously when I first arrived, I heard stories there was always games against Munster. That's one of the big games in the European Cups, and Clermont obviously had Munster in the quarterfinal and the semi-final previously, and I think Munster were ahead. You know, they were ahead of Clermont. So for us going over there was a big challenge for us. Obviously, we all knew that none of the French team have gone ahead, have won against Munster in Munster. So it was a big challenge for us as a team and as individual as well. So to be able to defeat Munster in Munster was, I think, it was a highlight of our year that year. And obviously, like I said, that we had some good experienced players during that time that sort of helped me make my job easier as well. So it was good. It was a good game.
Yeah, and you had a pretty busy day that afternoon. You got the try in the opening minute. There was a pretty famous little rubbing shoulders with Peter O'Mahony as well. The two of you came together. I remember reading there were quotes from you afterwards saying you were hoping you weren't going to get cited after it, because there were a couple of little swings thrown on both sides. I don't think anybody got cited in the end, but you know, he's going to be someone you're going to be coming up against again in a few weeks' time. I'm sure all that dust is settled, but it just shows the kind of intensity of those big nights, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was quite intense in the game. I think in the beginning of the game, I was quite nervous because everyone's telling me stories about how Munster and Clermont had a bit of a rival in the past, and so when we came to that game, was in the first kick-off, I think everyone was a bit nervous, and after I scored that try, everyone sort of calmed down and sort of go through what we normally do best. And obviously, Mahoney was, he was the captain for Munster at the time. A hell of a player. It's a great player, and is a great man off the field as well. And I was quite happy to share that moment with him, and we had a good chat after the game. We sort of have share a yarn and have a few beers after the game. So it was good moment for myself and for himself as well.
When you do go back to Thomond Park in January, obviously it's going to be much different because there aren't going to be any fans there. What have your experiences been like over the last few months playing? Have you played in a few games, maybe kind of trial matches where there have been a few fans allowed? I know in France, like, people always talk about how important home advantage is and how poor sides' away records are. Have you found it maybe easier going on those away games and playing in empty stadiums?
Every time we play away games, it's never easy. I think, especially in France as well, everyone sort of get up especially when they play Clermont. But like you said, that it's a lot easier for the away team that's going away, play away because of the crowd, and likewise for us as well. Every time the team comes to us, we sort of have that crowd behind us. But this year we didn't have that sort of support behind us at home. So it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird that we don't have that support behind us. But we just got to focus on what we can do best and what we do better.
Mm-hmm. You've been at the club a long time now. You have a top 14 medal. You've lost 2 Heineken Cup finals though. So Clermont, every year, I think they're a club people speak about as, this could be Clermont's year. Everyone I feel everyone wants to see them go to the latter stages of the competition. How big of a drive is there to finally go all the way and actually get your hands on the Heineken Champions Cup trophy?
I think massively. I think for us, it's always been a goal for us to go all the way and win the Champions Cup. I think individually and as a club as well. It's something that we always strive to do every year. Obviously, we came short a couple of times, and like I don't want to say it again. We're going to go all the way this year, so I don't want to check it. But I think we do have the team and experience that we have. And especially the format that the European this year, you sort of have a few lesser game. I think hopefully that will play into our favor as well. But it's always a big challenge. There's some good teams in England that always on the top of their game when they play against Clermont. So it's a massive challenge for us as always. But we're not going to change anything. We're just going to focus on what we can do and what we do best. And just play the game that we feel that works for us.
As you said, like, you don't want to make any bold predictions, and I think even the fans this year, it's going to be so hard to make bold predictions because with the layout of the competition and the condensed format, like Clermont's pool games against Bristol and Munster, that is probably as tough as anyone's going to have it this season. Even looking at Pool B as a whole across those 12 teams. Any one of those 12 teams could realistically finish inside that top 4. It's going to be really interesting to see those games and how they develop. Do you think with the fact that so many games are going to be out of people's hands and watching what other teams are doing, things like bonus points are going to be so important, picking up every single point you possibly can? Do you think a lot of teams maybe are going to be turning down shots at goal in favor of trying to get one more try just to get as many points on the board?
Yeah, I think that's with the kind of format that we have now. I think every single point is important, especially when you play your home games. You have to win with at least a bonus point because you can't predict what's going to happen if you do go away. But like I say, hopefully that sort of format will sort of in Clermont's favor. I think we're going to put our best team forward to play every week once the European starts. We can't afford to have, we've got to put our best players that we think that win the game away, and I think that's important for this kind of format is when you win away games. And like you said, every single point is important because it's an overall table. So as many points as we get. Hopefully that will help us to at the end of the comp.
Well, Fritz, it's been lovely talking to you, and the very best of luck to yourself and Clermont Auvergne in the competition.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, delighted to be joined by Leinster head coach Leo Cullen. Another Heineken Champions Cup season is looming large, Leo, but we're very much into the unknown this season with the one-off layout of the format, obviously with a condensed season for COVID. It's the Heineken Champions Cup, but not really as we know it.
Yeah, it's I think if you ask the number of our squads, I wouldn't say they're fully clear as to the dynamics of the pool. And for us, maybe that's not a bad thing. So I think it's important we just need to focus on the two teams that we do play, because there's lots of these other permutations kind of rattling around the background of who's playing who and who's in our pool. Obviously, there's 12 teams in each pool. So I think it's quite an exciting format. It takes a little bit to get your head around, which is perhaps no harm as well. But yeah, with the season that we have, we every team out there is talking about adaptability and all these words, and we just need to be able to make sure that we are clear that we need what we need to control. Obviously, which is our first up game against Montpellier away, which is going to be a huge challenge for us, and then we'll turn it around and try and get ourselves ready for Northampton the following week. But with the amount of internationals during this period, it'll be a challenge for our guys, and it's important we try to get our head around that first and foremost, which is integrating our group back together, so we're on the same page as what we're trying to do and achieve as a team, and then try and implement a game plan to take on Montpellier first up. So yeah, it's lots of exciting action to look forward to, and the new format I think definitely adds a element of the unknown, which creates a bit of excitement for supporters and players alike. So yeah, we can't wait to get going. Clearly, we had a disappointing end to our campaign last season, which doesn't seem like a long time ago now. Losing that game at home in the Aviva to Saracens was hugely upsetting and disappointing for lots of different reasons.
Yeah, obviously, I presume you're going to be hoping everyone comes back from the Irish camp unscathed, but can I just talk about some of the guys that didn't get to be involved in the Irish games over the last few weeks, specifically Garry Ringrose and Tadhg Furlong? How are they progressing? Do you think they'll be available?
Yeah, they will hopefully at some point. Exactly what point I'm not sure yet. Gary's making good progress, so he'll be tight to be involved for round one. Certainly if not round one, hopefully round two. Tadhg, we'll see where he goes because he's had a couple of setbacks along the way. We're always a bit more cautious with guys in terms of their return. So yeah, he's progressing well, and he's not a million miles away. Whether that's for round one or two, we'll see. It's been week by week at the moment, so but yeah, he's going okay. He's training away here, Tadhg. So just making sure it's as safe as possible, so he does not break it down again. So that's the most important bit for us.
Yeah, I imagine he's a very frustrated man at the moment. Like, you're talking between the lockdown when rugby was suspended, and then picking up the back injury, and then into the setback as well. Like, you're more than 9 months now since he's been able to step out onto the pitch. Like, it's the time bracket that you would associate with something like a cruciate ligament injury or a real career-threatening serious injury.
I know. Well, that's the main thing. At least it's not something that is in that bracket of injuries. So, he was fit and ready to play in one of the weeks in the early games. Had a minor setback and had a setback since then again. So that's what's delayed his return. But like as it said, like it's not a significant injury, we hope, for Tadhg, and hopefully he'll be back. And once he gets back, then he gets into a bit of rhythm and playing, and this period will all be forgotten about, hopefully. But that's just part and parcel of being a professional sports person. Particularly rugby, the game that we're involved in. I think most players will go through if you have a 10, 12-year career, you're going to go through a period where you're out for 6 or 9 months for whatever reason, just due to the nature of the game and some of the injuries that players pick up along the way.
You mentioned like part and parcel of the game, like, and the frustrations that go with it. Like, I don't know, I think it kind of possibly links to situation going on at the moment. I know Niall Woods was speaking to the Irish Times about the frustrations players have been having, and I imagine it's the frustrations like yourself and clubs have been having as well about not being able to have the contract negotiations with players. And Tyg Furlong is one of those whose contract is up in the summer. Johnny Sexton and Cian Healy, along with your, are among those in Leinster as well. How frustrating is it at the moment?
Yes and no. Like, yeah, of course, there's a bit of frustration because there's uncertainty about the future, but we also feel very privileged the fact that we're actually able to get out and play the game and come into work, which a lot of people don't have that privilege at the moment. So, you know, that's an agent. It sounds like an agent. Sounds like he's obviously putting his spoke out there. You know, for us, we feel very fortunate. Like, I'm someone who's out of contract as well at the end of the season. Like a lot of players and coaches, so that just comes with the territory. The flip side of that is we feel very fortunate we're able to do what we do as well. So, and we're just getting on with things at the moment, and we all understand the reasons for the, I guess, lack of certainty about trying to push forward with the future because it's so uncertain at the moment. You know, hopefully we get to the point over the next few weeks and months where we start to get some crowds back. You've seen it in other sports and in other countries. So, but making sure that that's as safe as possible as well. So there's a kind of lots of optimism, I think, out there at the moment with talks of vaccines and whatever else. But, you know, for us, we just need to kind of make sure the environment is safe as possible. Nothing has changed drastically, even with the country in terms of some of the levels of lockdowns being eased. You know, we've been able to go about doing our business as I've touched on already over the last number of weeks, even though we've been in a level 5 lockdown. So we feel very fortunate in that regard. As things start to ease over Christmas, and making sure that we need to make sure we remain tight. Because you've seen it with teams, you know, we've a game had just been called off the weekend with Scarlets. Other teams have had games called off. Some of the international teams have been called off. So we need to understand like the threats that are still out there. So making sure that we do continue to do the right thing, and, you know, huge credit to our players because for the most part they've done the right thing, and we've been able to get our games played. The one exception is obviously our game being called off against Scarlets, but whatever has happened over there, I don't know exactly the ins and outs of that. But, you know, for us, we need to make sure that we do the right thing, and as we start into our European campaign, that we want to get the games played, and then we're relying on ourselves to get the positive results rather than relying on somebody else, because that's not a situation that we want.
And just one more on the contract situation, like, do you have any fear that, you know, the frustrations and the uncertainty could actually start to affect players on the pitch?
Yeah, but that's the way it is every season. You know, like, just due to the nature of the contracting cycle, there's, you know, the guts of half your squad are out of contracts every year. You know, that's generally the way it becomes between players and the club. Like, more often as players don't want to sign for a longer term than a couple of years. So, you know, it's rare enough that you get long-term contracts. So in theory, you have 50% of your squad out of contracts every season anyway. So it hasn't changed drastically. It's just maybe things have been shifted by a couple of months. So everyone's got to get on control what they can control. And, you know, for players and coaches, it's preparing and training the team, and obviously from an individual point of view, doing your bits to get yourself in the best possible shape to be able to perform at the weekend. And you do those things well, then values and, you know, things become a lot clearer then for what everyone wants to do.
And just on the competition format itself, then, on the competition format, we spoke at the start about how, you know, there's uncertainty over kind of like how this is going to play out and how things are going to look maybe in the latter stages of the competition. Do you think there could be a shift in terms of the way teams are attacking, that teams are going for more tries? Because you would imagine like try scoring bonus points are going to be huge over the few weeks. Do you think we're going to see teams maybe turning down easy 3-pointers and going towards touch, going to scrum down?
I think there's going to be all sorts of things. You know, when you're in a pool of 12 teams and 4 are qualifying, straight away, without trying to get too far ahead, you know, we're starting with away games, so it's important that we, you know, go about trying to make sure we manage the occasion of a team playing at home, and, you know, whatever sort of crowd is going to be in France. I don't know yet, so you know, it won't be a packed house, you'd imagine. You know, some of our guys have had the opportunity to play in Montpellier in the past, so But yeah, like it's making sure you still got to try and get as much as you can from the away games. You know, if you sneak a win away and then try and turn it around for the following week at home, and try to maximise every point. And yeah, there's going to be points within the game, or sort of times within the game where you go, right, well, we want to go for a bonus point because of, we've seen some of the other teams in the pool and maybe they've had a bonus point or whatever that is. So trying to stay within that top 4 of the 12 teams in your pool and get as high up the food chain as possible. But then you're trying to work out all the permutations of the other pool then as well. So you can't get too clever. You just got to go and play the game that's out there in front of you. And manage whatever situation you are within the game as well. So sometimes, as we've seen in the past, the losing bonus point turns out to be a good result away from home. And then you get back home and try and maximise whatever points are available then as well. So, yeah, I'm sure as it unfolds, there'll be lots of different permutations. So ultimately, what does that mean? For us away from home first, it's trying to put out a performance first and foremost where we get all the international guys back. And we have a good cohesive training week where we're trying to build against that level of cohesion will hopefully lead to a positive performance for us in the game.
Yeah, I think from our own point of view here, I'm already dreading doing those permutations on the final round. They're tough enough when it's 6 rounds of games, but I think in a 4-round format, it's going to be even tougher. Leo Cullen, thanks a million for joining us on OTB and very best of luck with the campaign.
Thanks, Neil. Yeah, cheers.
All right, the Heineken Champions Cup is back live on Off the Ball and News Talk this winter, and I'm delighted to be joined by Garry Ringrose of Leinster. How are you keeping, Gary?
Great, thanks. Great, thank you.
How's the Joe?
It's good. It's good. Back talking and training and all that thing normally. So, yeah, it's good to be back for my sanity more than anything.
Was there an extended period of not talking?
Probably the first week to 10 days was pretty quiet and not doing much training, not allowed to do much. So that was really the toughest part. Once I got through that week, yeah, it's been good.
And a liquid diet, was it?
Yeah, I was chatting to a few of you. It was liquid diet. I still am on a little bit of that at the moment. Right. Putting in a few soft foods, so it's a little bit more bearable. But I'm looking forward to getting a pizza or something next week when I can get back to normal food, maybe a steak as well. So that'll definitely be on the menu next week. Did
you know straight away that this was pretty serious?
Probably it kind of happens. You know what I mean? The adrenaline's going when you're out there, so you know something's not right. But I wouldn't have known exactly what the issue was. But then it didn't take the docs long to realise themselves, and then they obviously broke the news in under the stand in the Aviva, which obviously is never nice. But listen, we're back. When I'm training away, doing rehab and lifting and running with a few boys. We've a good crew. There's myself, Ty Furlong, Jack Cohn and Jordan Larmer, Max Deegan, Alan Byrne, a few of us putting in a bit of work together, so it's always easier when you have a few guys going at it.
Yeah, I guess we can joke one way about a liquid diet, but for you as a professional, I'm sure you need to be getting a huge amount of calories into you every day to maintain the body. Has that actually been a difficulty?
That's the first week or 10 days, probably adjusting and adapting to it. That was the hardest part, but after that was managed to get into a bit of routine, a lot of smoothies, blended meals. So thankfully the weight's normal and the fitness and strength is all back to normal now. Because I could do everything else, you know what I mean? It was just a jaw. So it's not like a knee or a shoulder where you're maybe limited in certain movements. At least I could do all that.
So what's the time frame then? Will you be back from Montpellier?
Yeah, I'm actually going for a review at the end of this week, and then I'll kind of find out. Maybe this is the first day next week. I have to double check, but it's that's been the aim from the off, and then just get the go ahead, hopefully. What I can't say for certain, to be honest, just wait and see.
You mentioned a pretty long injury list, and well, that's modern rugby. I'd imagine that sort of injury list is always there in a province of the size of Leinster. What do you do when you have this sort of time off? Because I know you've had a difficult enough 2020. What do you do do you want to switch off completely from rugby, or are you always around the squad? Do you like to be in and still involved?
Yeah, you're definitely all around the squad, like in every meeting, contributing if you can. Obviously, you're not playing the games, you're still training, and like say, my gym sessions and strength stuff side of things would correlate with the team schedule, and then add in extra rehab sessions or extra running sessions. So I might be running on the same time as lads are training, so you're still casting an eye over what's going on. So that's kind of what you want. I wouldn't, I know some guys it's tricky when it's a long-term injury, but you might take pockets of a couple of days to switch off because it is intense, but it's nice actually being around the building and around guys playing. And even the fact that there's Monday night games and games earlier in the week and stuff like that, and between all the international games, is pretty enjoyable. Or at least keeping it as frustrating as it is, at least it's to keep us entertained as well. So
there's always a mix when it comes to rugby players and professional athletes of those who really throw themselves into watching every bit of it, and those who actually feel that because you're involved so often, actually when you're not involved, you switch off. Are you somebody who watches every bit of rugby?
I think each their own. Everyone's kind of different in that regard, but I'd probably fall into the camp of, if there's a match on, I'll watch it. Whether it's over in England or Pro 14 or international game, I usually watch it.
Yeah. How do you reflect on 2020 then? Because from the outside, it seems like it must have been a pretty frustrating year. I think it's 67 minutes in an Ireland jersey, all in.
Yeah, obviously not ideal. The Scotland game was pretty much just before half time, broke my thumb, and then that ruled out that. And then the Italian game was, I think, about 20 minutes in. So, I mean, like you said it yourself, it's the nature of it. So as frustrating as it is, certainly at the time, it's pretty devastating when you get told the news or you realise the extent of any injury. But kind of what we were talking about, when you're in the building and I'm around other people who are in similar positions and you're still around the team, contributing any way you can, training as hard as you can to hit the ground running when you get back. That I mean, it's still not the worst environment to be in. I think it'd be tough if I was on my own or at home, stuck that sort of way. But the fact I'm around the lads and still trying to chip in any way I can definitely helps. So it's obviously tough watching the games. You'd love to be out there, or at least have your hand up to be available to be out there. But as you said, it's the nature of it, unfortunately.
That chipping in any way you can, is that different to maybe 4 or 5 years ago if you picked up an injury and missed a bit of time, as to your role within the squad? Because I think an awful lot's been said about the leadership role you've taken on over the last couple of years. I
mean, I know, like I always say, the coaches here in Leinster, because obviously I had to leave Irish camp because I'm back in here because I was ruled out for the whole thing, or the Autumn Nations Cup. But the coaches always encourage everyone to have a point of view and contribute to the group in some way, whether you're playing or not, whether you have 100 caps or 1 cap. So, I mean, nothing changes on that front. I mean, as I was saying, I'm watching loads of rugby matches, and that's kind of what I love doing, and I'm passionate about it. So the same as when I'm in here. So I'm sure some of the lads might want me to shut up at some times, but I think I just love kind of getting involved and contributing any way I can, that sort of way.
Right, because it was interesting listening to Andy Farrell talk about James Ryan and the captaincy, and how maybe something clicked over the summer with James Ryan, that everybody's talking about me as a future Ireland captain. Maybe I should start thinking about this as well, and that suddenly he started asking a whole lot more questions about that leadership role. Is that something you've done as well over the last couple of years when people talk about that leadership role? Do you talk to people who've been there, who've done that, about who've stood up in dressing rooms at crucial times and said the right thing at the right time?
I think I'd always personally challenge myself to be the best version of myself. So whether it's specifically having a C beside your name on the team sheet, or just being the best leader you can be, it kind of makes you an all-rounded player. So, and on James, he's an unbelievable leader in what he does, and his actions on the pitch and off the pitch. But then I think he's incredible in what he says, and how like you're talking about in the big moments, steps up and says the right things. So it comes as no surprise to me that he is making that step up and doing well, clearly. So that's, I think, personally, that'd be the same, as try and challenge myself anyway. And any team I'm in, sometimes it's whether to say less. If that's the right thing to do, you do. But if you need to step up and say the right thing that's needed, then it's the awareness to be able to do that. So that's kind of how I look at it. Obviously, getting the chance to captain Leinster twice is pretty cool. Like, it is an honour. It's kind of one of those things that you don't maybe dream about when you're a kid. Certainly when you're in here, there's so many leaders in the group. Any Leinster team that goes out, 5 or 6 guys could do the coin toss before the game, that sort of way. And the coaches here challenges to be, every one of us could be in that position. So that's why I love being part of that environment and being challenged in that way. Anyway.
I guess that's where that balance of knowing when to say something is, because I guess you can't have yourself, Johnny Sexton, James Ryan, and as you say, countless other players with dozens and dozens of Ireland caps all standing up before every single match.
Oh, big time. Like even being in here when I was younger, like Easton Sewa used to know exactly, almost as if he knew exactly the right thing to say at the right time. And he wasn't always the loudest voice in the room, but he always just kind of hit the spot when it was needed. So someone like that kind of thing is pretty good. And then you have the likes of Sexto, who's unbelievably good as that as well, who's driven and motivated in his actions and inspires people what he does, but then he also knows how to lift guys at the right times when that's needed.
It's something I think every great team has. I remember listening to Roy Keane talking about that Manchester United dressing room, and he was pointing at someone like Gary Neville saying, all right, Gary Neville had a role at times when he was a younger player. He wasn't the loudest player in that dressing room, but his professionalism was his leadership. The fact he was first there, last to go, that actually there is a role for every type of personality. It's not that, I guess, traditional Irish figure that we look at, which is the Paul O'Connell type, the giant, the James Ryan, is the sort of bellowing instructions. Actually, leadership can take on many different forms.
Yeah, exactly. And that was even during lockdown, being challenged and listening to a few podcasts and reading up. Like what you were talking about, James, we would have touched base a few times on kind of on the similar vein of trying to get better in that areas. And that's kind of one thing that I found interesting, was just that there's no one type of leader, that sort of right. There's no blueprint. This is what you have to be like. There's a few responsibilities that you do have to tick off. I like what you were saying, it's that awareness of saying the right thing at the right times, but everyone does that in their own little way. So I actually just finished Roy Keane's book there and found that pretty cool. I think Graden has much of an insight into as good a leader as he was. Probably he gets the headlines and a few of the controversial things, but when you actually read and see his personality, I really enjoyed that.
I was going to ask what podcast you were listening to. I'm sure Stuart Lancaster's Leaders' Questions on Off the Ball was top of the list of why you were listening to. Anything else stand out that you were listening to?
I was asked this the other day. There's a good one, the High Performance podcast. There's a good one. Which is very good. And that kind of ties in. There's a whole host of different people from different walks of life, and you see kind of similarities that run between all of them, but then how different they all are as well. So I find that quite good. And then sure, like Stuart has sent on a rake of different podcasts that I wouldn't know what they're called or where they're from, but they're all a whole host of people from different backgrounds, some from rugby league, some from union, some people just involved, kind of cultural specialists, stuff like that. So I mean, I certainly don't have all the answers, but I find that sort of stuff interesting and try and pick up little nuggets anytime listening to them.
Looking at this tournament then and the new Heineken Champions Cup season, like the Champions Cup is so synonymous with Irish rugby and packed houses and Friday nights or Saturday evenings at a packed Aviva Stadium, all of that. I know you're getting used to the no crowds, but the shortened season, the condensed calendar of the pool stage, the 4 matches, do you think it's going to affect the rugby, the fact there's not the full pool stage there in terms of how teams approach, looking to score more tries, points difference?
I don't know, it's a long-winded question. I don't know, I certainly wouldn't think about it that much. Like, we're always challenged, obviously in a different way, to be adaptable the whole way, like through everything we do. And this is kind of just a new challenge, is to be adaptable to what's been put out in front of us. I mean, to have the Champions Cup, like I'm excited with the way it looks like. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm looking at Montpellier, Northampton, and then not really looking too far beyond that, that sort of way, that we'd have a good mindset in Leinster anyway, that you just take it week by week and every point counts and you get the most out of that week. And you grow and be better and learn from it early on in the following week, and that ultimately kind of incrementally hopefully improves performance. Well, that's the plan anyway. But so it's the same for Europe. It'll be to take a step back and think of all those nuances that you're talking about. Probably a bit distracting away from just focusing on the first game, or even considering it as a 2-block game. To get the maximum we can out of that performance-wise. So, I mean, that's kind of what, from a player's perspective, that's the way I'm looking at it, and I think that's why most guys are. I'd say the coaches kind of address the bigger picture, but for us, the main thing is what's directly in front of us.
Yeah, you keep it simple. We look at all the permutations and all that as we go on. Yeah. Garry, it's been great to talk to you. Hopefully we see you back, maybe Montpellier, if not over the course of the Christmas. Best of luck with the recovery.
Thanks, Bill. Chat to you again.
So the new Heineken Champions Cup season is back this week, and Ulster are one of the first teams that are going to be back in action because they're playing this Friday against Toulouse, of course, the side that knocked them out of the competition in the quarterfinals last season. Ulster head coach Dan McFarland is speaking to me at the moment. Dan, I imagine a little bit of unfinished business around Toulouse, but this time it's at home and a chance to right a lot of maybe the wrongs that happened in the south of France a couple of months back.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Neil. It actually seems a long time ago now that we played Toulouse, and in a sense, it is last season, but it's actually not that long ago. But yeah, there is unfinished business there, and it's we didn't feel that we played as well as we can over there. Having said that, Toulouse are a top quality side, and if you're off the money slightly, it doesn't matter whether it's home, it's away, wherever it is, whoever you are, they're going to put you to the sword. Yeah, certainly. And I imagine a lot of players have things they want to set straight as well. But obviously, just in terms of this season's competition, with the new pool system and the way things are laid out, a fast start this season is absolutely vital. As much as it is every other season, this season in particular, though, when you're only playing 4 games, it is absolutely enormous. Oh, it is, yeah, and you're not only competing against the people in your specific group of 3 teams that or the teams that you're playing. It's against a whole raft of other players, other teams. So, 4 games is leaves no room for error. And when you look at it, it's not that 4 wins is going to be a minimum, because I suspect that 3 wins could get you into the quarterfinal with the odd bonus point. But when you're playing sides of the caliber of Toulouse and Gloucester, 3 wins is a big ask for a club like us, and it's something that we're obviously aiming for, but we're not going to underestimate the challenge in front of us. Mm-hmm. A lot of people after that defeat to Toulouse in the quarterfinals, and I think maybe it was coming off the back of the fact that you only had 1 win in that closing period of the season when we came back from lockdown. A lot of people were actually a little bit worried about Ulster's form. There was kind of a sort of a tired look almost to some of the players. But the good thing is, ever since you came back for this new season, 100% record, playing some fantastic stuff. And only for the fact that Leinster have picked up a bonus point in every single game they've played. In any other season, you'd imagine Ulster might actually be quite a few points clear at the top of a conference. Yeah, look, we didn't play well for whatever reason when we came back, and there were that wasn't the whole time. We did play some nice stuff, but it wasn't consistently enough to be able to win. And especially given the caliber of the opposition that we were playing. We faced Leinster twice in that time and played Toulouse, and these are really, really good opposition, and obviously not a single game at home. The nature of the way that the injuries worked in the squad throughout that build up to post lockdown meant that we didn't build any cohesion, and I think there are a little bit of elements of the way that we approached the game that meant that we didn't hit the ground running, and it ended up not playing the way that we want to play. But we had a reset, and we had a few things go our way after that, and we've come with a different mindset to the way that we play the game now, or I say different, slightly adjusted mindset to the way that we're approaching our training and our play, and it's paid dividends for us. After the Pro 14 final, you said on TV that it kind of felt at that particular moment anyway, like the gap between Leinster and the rest was even bigger than it had felt pre-kickoff. Was that something, looking back now, that maybe you kind of think it kind of felt like that in the heat of the moment, or since the couple of months have passed and you've seen the good start that you've got off to, that, you are feeling a little bit better about that gap between Leinster and the rest? I don't know, to be honest, Neil. Like we obviously haven't played against Leinster. We had an A game against them and won down there, but it's it's a really difficult one to assess. You know, they're as it stands in the league at the moment, they're untouchable. From what everybody else has been able to do against them, nobody's even stressed them. So, you know, I would still say that they're in that position in our league. Well, the bottom line is that the main focus for us is improving the depth of our squad, improving the guys in at the top of the squad to try and get in a position where we can play consistently over a season, and then when the big games count, if we're lucky enough to get into those games, that we're able to put in performances that are going to win playoff matches. But you know, like, that's all got to be put in context of the quality of the teams that we're playing against, and you know, the likes of Toulouse and Leinster offer, you know, huge challenges. Are we ready to beat them? I certainly believe that we're capable of beating them on any given day. Whether we're able to do that consistently, you know, that remains to be answered.
You've had a few players away at the moment on international duty, just like Billy Burns, Rob Herring, off the top of my head, Ian Henderson as well. But obviously you've been able to keep the likes of John Cooney, Sean Reidy, Geordie Murphy, a lot of other guys as well, who might have considered themselves or would have hoped to have been in the mix for test matches over the last few weeks. When that kind of a situation happens, is there, like, I imagine on some part of you, you're disappointed for the lads that they're not selected. The selfish part of you as Ulster head coach must actually be quite happy that you have these guys with you for these games during this period of time when other teams are missing a lot of their very good players.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing for us is that in this period, we've apart from John, we've missed most of our backs. You know, whether that's through being with the international setup in Stu, Billy and Jake, or whether it's through injury. You know, a lot of the frontline backs have not been available, with Will and Luke Marshall and Robert Balakoum not being there. But we've got a lot of exciting talent in the backs coming through, and it's been an opportunity for us to develop that depth with, you know, the likes of Stuart Moore and James Hume and Ethan McElroy all getting opportunities to play in there. And then the interesting thing in the forwards there, like Rob and Ian have been away, but we've got some pretty experienced forwards there that are with us, and I think that's put us in really good stead over this period of 8 games, and possibly something that some of the other teams haven't had. So with the likes of Marty Moore and Sam Carter and Al O'Connor, Geordie, Sean, Marcel, you know, in the forwards, you know, that's really helpful when you've got to grind out these games while international games are going on. And you know, other guys have jumped up in amongst that, the likes of John Andrew, who's played some really fantastic rugby. You know, Greg Jones has come in and played some really good games. And people like Marcus Ray and Dave McCann, who played at the weekend, have had a chance to shine in amongst that experience. So, you know, there's been a real element of seniority in that forward pack there that's helped us through those times. Do I want them playing with us? No. You know, the objective is for me to prepare the team with the players that we have. One of the goals for us is to get as many people playing for their country as possible, and you know, if that's South Africa or if that's Ireland, it doesn't really matter. I want these guys to achieve their ambitions, and most of them really want to play. The vast majority of them really want to represent their country. So whenever that happens, you know, we're applauding that. There's never a sense of deflation or worry about that. We get on with what we've got to get on with. You know, I think that's the only way to be, and it's I'd love to see those guys playing for their country.
Certainly, yeah. And just finally for me then, Dan, on Jacob Stockdale, obviously we're seeing him more often now at fullback than we are on the wing. Was that something that you wanted to see initially? Was it a bit of direction from the IRFU that they were looking at playing him there at 15? And is he looking like a long-term fullback rather than winger in your mind?
Look, I think the fantastic thing is that Jacob can play left wing or right wing, I suppose, if you asked him to, but fullback as well. You know, it's he has a skill set that can cover off both of those positions. You know, we put him at fullback. Will Addison was injured, and we needed somebody who was of quality playing in that position. And as I say, he's got the skill set, so we played him there, and we knew. You know, we knew, one, that he wanted to have a go at that. Two, that he'd done a really excellent job in the previous season when we played away at Edinburgh. And he'd had a fantastic performance in that fullback slot. So, you know, the fullbacks tend to get quite a few more touches. And, of course, as an athlete and ball carrier, you want Jacob getting a lot of touches. So it'll be interesting to see what we do now. What we'll do is we'll do what's best for the team, as we always do. So coming into these games, it'll depend on the combination of players that we want to put on the pitch as to how we go.
Dan McFarland, very best of luck against Toulouse this week and throughout the rest of the competition as well.
Thanks very much, Neil. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
So the Heineken Champions Cup returns this Friday, and Ulster kick off their campaign against the side that they were beaten by in the quarterfinals last year. Looking ahead to that now, I'm joined by Ulster back row Sean Reidy. Ulster, good afternoon. Thanks a million for joining us on Off the Ball.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for having me.
So, Sean, as I mentioned, this is Toulouse, the team that knocked you out in the quarterfinals just a couple of months ago. Not exactly an easy game to start with, but is this the perfect chance to actually right some of those wrongs from the south of France back in September?
Yeah, 100%. We've sort of developed and come on a bit since that quarterfinal. And what better way to sort of right our wrongs by welcoming the French here to Belfast, to the Kingspan, and putting in a good effort.
Did you feel your performance in that game was unreflective of where you were at the time?
100%. I think there was, let's not take away from it, they're a good side and they've got some great players, and especially at home you see how much they get up for their home supporters. So it'll be good to sort of return the favour and show them a nice sort of Kingspan welcome.
It probably shows the standard of teams that are out there at the moment, because Ulster coming into this competition with a number one ranking. When you have a number one ranking, you're not expecting to be playing someone as good as Toulouse, I would imagine. Yeah,
well, that's competition for you, isn't it? It's week in, week out. You're playing against the top teams going around now. So we know just from the last few seasons in Europe, you really get an easy game or a game that you go into it knowing you're going to win. So that reflects in this competition, and we're happy to be playing in it.
It obviously wasn't a result you dwelled on, because ever since then you had the few weeks off before the new season started in earnest. But you clearly weren't too I was going to say clearly weren't too upset, but you clearly didn't dwell on it, because the start you've had since then, a 100% record. And as I mentioned to your head coach, Dan McFarland, only for the fact that Leinster have won with a bonus point in every single game. In any other season, you could be comfortably clear of them.
Yeah, there wasn't much of a turnaround following that quarterfinal. And look, with 8 from 8, it's a pretty solid start to the season. We've put in some good performances. Sometimes where things haven't gone to plan either, but we're in a really good place at the moment. There's a really good buzz around the squad, and over those 8 games, there were a lot of players coming in and out, and a lot of rotation, and a lot of guys taking their chances. So heading into Europe, we feel like we're in a really good spot. And we're looking forward to it.
You mentioned there's a really good buzz around the squad. Like, you can do all the team building exercises in the world you want, but when you're winning games week on week on week, that's ultimately the greatest team building exercise in the world, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. You know, when you're putting in solid shifts next to your mates, and you know they're doing the same for you, you know it's a good buzz. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if you're winning games, it's going to be a happy place. As soon as you start struggling or losing a couple, then you start looking for answers. But at the end of the day, I think we're in a good place, and the boys are training really hard and pushing each other, and just trying to be the best we can be.
How do Ulster take that next step from challenging for silverware to getting your hands on it? So, like, you got to a Pro 14 final last year. You've got to the latter stages of the Heineken Champions Cup for 2 seasons in a row. You're clearly in that bracket of teams that are in the mix in the latter stages of competitions. But the biggest step is always actually just that last one. Yeah,
it's always the toughest step, isn't it? Like, it's that last final hurdle. I think it's just being about consistent in what we do. We've got our own sort of standards that we're trying to drive within the club. And as soon as we hit those standards, I think we'll be in a good place. But as I said, we've got a lot of young guys coming through and a bit of experience there as well. So at the end of the day, if we're constantly in those semi-finals and finals, then sooner or later, I feel like it's going to come.
What has Dan McFarland done over the last couple of years to bring Ulster back to this level? Because you're probably one of the longest serving members in the squad at the moment. You've been there since 2014. You were in around European quarterfinals around that period. You had to get through a couple of tough years in between.
Yes.
There's been a real progression over the last 2.5 years since Dan came in. What are the small things that you've been able to put your finger on that he's done?
I think, obviously I've been there a while, and there were times there we had a few coaches in and out, but I think he's just brought a real consistency, and like the guys he likes the guys to work hard for each other, and I think at the end of the day, he knows that rugby's not a perfect game, it's ever evolving, and he just knows if we're working hard for each other, if we're trying to learn every day and try and get better and raise our standards every day, then we're going to be in a better place. So fair credit to him and the other coaches. They're bringing a lot of fresh new ideas in. We're not getting stagnant. We know where we want to be. We want to be with our hands on those trophies and those medals at the end of the year. And in order to do that, we've got to constantly be evolving our game and working hard to try and bring the best out of each other.
On your own game, in terms of test involvement with Ireland, your last involvement 3 years ago in 2017, you've been playing quite well at the moment. I think everyone's been in agreement on that. Do you think that test opportunity is still open for you? Is it something you're actively striving for? Or do you feel maybe that opportunity is kind of gone?
Yeah, I'm not too sure really. I just try and do the best I can. If it comes about, it does. As I've said in the past, there's a lot of good loose forwards in Ireland, and there's a lot of competition there. So it's tough to get a crack. I feel like at times I've been playing good enough to be in that squad, but obviously the coaches down there, they've got a plan and a vision of where they want to be in the next few years of the World Cup. So yeah, I'm just doing what I can for the Solstice squad, and that's putting in good performances week in, week out, and as I said previously, just trying to be the best I can be and try help the squad to be the best it can be.
We've been in an international window over the last few weeks, but Ulster have, I suppose, been lucky in a way that, a lot of key players, unfortunately for themselves, didn't get selected for Ireland. Are Ulster players getting enough of a look in? Is there a few players maybe that feel that, they're feeling a little bit hard done by that they're not getting called up consistently as they are?
Yeah, well, obviously I'm not the coach of Ireland, and I don't know what their plan is going into the future. So obviously they're looking at their youth and what can happen in the World Cup in sort of 3 years' time. So I'm not too sure where their plan is, but I know there's a lot of good players here in Ulster, and there's a lot of good players that I know that if given more of an opportunity at international level would thrive. So it's gutting to see a few guys that aren't in the mix that I think should be, but at the same time, when you see guys sort of like Eric O'Sullivan or Billy Burns getting called in there, the guys are just thrilled for those boys, and that's good to see a few guys getting a little bit of reward for the work they put in.
When you are in that window as well, actually, and you hear about injuries happening, is there part of you that's constantly just checking in on your phone every couple of minutes just in case that call comes in?
Nah, not really. Maybe a few years ago I was a bit like that, but the older you get, you focus on what you can control, and I can't control those kind of things. I can only control what I do day in, day out, week in, week out with Ulster. So that's my main focus. But as I said, there's plenty of guys putting their hand up at Ulster, and I just hope further down the line they get an opportunity, because I know that they could thrive in that kind of environment.
Finally, then, on your own situation, and something that's just been discussed a lot over the last few days, is the contract situation with players in Ireland, where negotiations won't be starting. You obviously signed your latest contract earlier on this year, so you're signed up until 2022.
Correct, yes.
I imagine there's a good bit of relief, like almost in a selfish way, that this isn't going to be hanging over you now for another couple of months, because I imagine it's going to be a very difficult situation for players.
Yeah, especially for a lot of people. Like anyone in the workplace, guys have sort of families and mortgages and things going on that they need to get some security for as well. So I completely understand the position the RFU are in. They don't really know their circumstances in regards to finances and whatnot yet. So it's a relief for me, but I know there's a lot of guys out there that I don't know, it might be hanging over their head a little bit. So hopefully that can get sorted out soon.
All right, Sean, very best of luck this Friday against Toulouse and throughout the rest of the tournament as well.
Cheers, Neil. Thanks for that.
Hi, Andy. How are you keeping?
I'm well, thanks, Tom. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Obviously, looking forward to the Heineken Champions Cup just around the corner.
Very excited by it, mate. Yeah, we're really pleased to be in it, and looking forward to our first two challenges, Racing and Bristol.
Yeah, as challenges go, they are pretty challenging, to be fair, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, mate. But that's what you want too. You want to pitch yourselves against the best, and we've got that opportunity now. So it's for us to step up and take on that challenge.
I suppose that is it, isn't it? When you're in this competition, you're not going to be spared, are you?
No, you're not, and no one cares that you're from the west of Ireland. You might have the smallest budget, but it doesn't matter. You're another opposition that's in someone's way. But the way we look at it is you're another opposition we want to knock off. So we're going in there with the desire to want to win games, with a desire to put our best foot forward and to make the people of the west of Ireland very proud.
And it's about, with these pool games that are against such lofty opposition, do you guys set targets to try and say, right, we are just going to have to focus on the home games, or is that completely changed with lockdown and no crowd, or those kind of sports ground advantages you would sort of traditionally have had?
Yeah, it's not an advantage, because they've still got to come to the west of Ireland, and as you would appreciate, mate, anything can happen when you're over here in terms of weather.
There was no goal races this year, Andy, so anything didn't happen, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that didn't go ahead. But we don't have the clan terrace full. We don't have the crowds, and we don't have that brilliant energy and the atmosphere that we get. At the same time, neither do they when we turn up to their home ground. So there's an element of the home advantage possibly being taken away a little bit. But at the end of the day, you're still on a rugby pitch. You're still playing the game that you play. Different surface for us up against Racing, which will be good to play on. Actually, I think players are excited by that, because we do want to play an open, expansive game, and that will allow us to do that. So yeah, listen, it has its own unique challenges, and this year more than any, it's a very unique competition.
Yeah, I suppose that La Defense Arena, it weirdly, it is somewhere that should suit you the way you guys look to play, isn't it?
Yeah, it takes what is normally a major part. The elements are a major part of what we can and can't do when we play at the sports ground. So it takes that away. At the same time, that that's what Racing expect every other week, because that's what they play on. So a little bit like when we played Glasgow a few years ago, you play on their artificial surface, and they play a really quick game because that's what they're used to doing. So we will be very much aware of that. We'll have our own things that we want to try and do to try and nullify that. But at the same time, we'll try and exploit that as well, because it is the brand that we want to play, and it'll be a great test of what we can do if we eventually get an artificial turf at the sports ground.
Just a quick bit on how your preparation has gone, because obviously suspension for Abraham Papali, and then obviously the Ospreys game postponed last weekend. So how has that affected your preparation?
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, Abraham's currently in an appeal. We're going to appeal that again, so we'll see how that goes today. But yeah, you never want to see red cards, and you never want to see blokes ruled out for a period of time. So that's a frustrating one. We'll wait and see what comes out of this latest appeal. The stop-start nature of our season, it's not ideal again, but it's nothing that we can control. What we can control is how we respond to it. I will say, as a collective group of staff and players, the energy's been positive. There's frustration, no doubt, that we've had 3 games postponed now, but we got our test results back this morning. We're again completely negative with our COVID results. So I love the fact that we're staying on task and we're protecting ourselves. That's all we can do. And as we head into Champions Cup, let's just hope we remain like that, and all our opposition do as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just another challenge. You actually spoke to us there, I think, after the first lockdown, about how things have changed internally, and how has that kind of worked out? You said I think you mentioned that before you were focusing on filling players' days, but now you worked with your leadership group, and you've spoken about just being far more efficient and getting the players buy-in to work a more efficient week to how things are done now. I was just going to say, in practice for the sort of second part of the season, although it's a new season because the way things have gone, how has it worked out for you?
Listen, I think it's been one of the real pluses to come out of the COVID period. You know, we had to have a look at what we were doing. We can't have team meetings like we used to. There isn't, and now that we've got onto virtual meetings, you think, why didn't we do this before? And we look at it and you think, geez, we were busy fools before. We're filling our day from 7 till 7 and still thinking we need more time. But now, you know, quite often the coaches, staff, or the players don't get in till 10 o'clock in the morning. They might be leaving at 4 o'clock, but you've had a really full day. It doesn't mean when you're at home you weren't working either, but you know, there just appears to be a lot more time at the moment. So if there's been a plus coming out of it, it's definitely been that. Yeah,
it is just a kind of a weird kind of quirk of how lockdown's gone, hasn't it? How everyone's lives have just changed in that way.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant reset button for everyone. You know, you only know what you know, so we're all charging on our merry way. I remember someone once saying to me, "If you win the rat race, you're still a rat." We're part of that rat race, you know. But then when it gets put on hold and you're told to pause, you do pause and you stop and you think, geez, can we do that better? Can we be more efficient there? And it's forced us to do that, which has been a real plus. And the reality of it and my learning of it is that, yeah, we were busy doing things we didn't need to be doing. So we got more efficient days. I believe that we're better equipped as coaches, as husbands, as people, to spend our energy in other areas as well. So from that aspect, it's been a plus.
Yeah, absolutely. Just one aspect on the sort of Ospreys game being postponed. Is there a chance that it's kind of you had quite a lot of players away on Ireland duty as well. Is there a chance that it might actually be an enormous benefit because, you know, if you'd had further injuries there or a risk in that, you know, it's kind of worked out that the squad is now intact as it is. The Ireland players will come back and then you just go push it this Heineken Champions Cup pool games.
Yeah, you know, I'll always look at it and try and find the positives out of it, try and find the silver linings, and that would be it. The issue for us is we've had 3 of those postponements. Yeah. So this coming weekend, as we head into Champions Cup, would normally be a down week, but we play Benetton on Friday night. The other positive of that is it's a game closer to the European week, given that we've had the previous 3 games lost. So it's another chance to build our momentum and go into it. So it all depends on how you want to look at it, Tom, and we're looking at it through positive eyes and saying, well, it is what it is. We'll get to play that game at another time, and all eyes are on Racing and what we can do over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully you get a bit of time anyway to explore the west of Ireland. You get out from any cycles in the sort of post-lockdown. So if you live in Galway, they've been kept inside your county. You still have plenty of space, don't you?
Plenty of space. I mean, that's been the plus, but they put this 5-kilometre radius on us, and that makes it tricky.
Yeah.
But I managed to get out for a ride and probably dogged myself in here. I went out for a ride and ducked out of my 5K radius the other day just to get a bit of fresh air. And it's nice, mate. Listen, it's good to, you know, it's a beautiful part of the world, when the sun's shining, which happens more
I
than
mean,
you might think. It's nice.
I mean, you're pushing it there, Andy. I think you're pushing it a little bit there.
Again, mate, it could be a cloudy day with a touch of blue, and I say to my wife, "With a blue sky popping through there."
You're starting to sound like a local now. That's what they say. With I holiday in Clifton, so yeah, that's what they say. You know, one spot of blue sky. It'll be getting a nice day today.
Dead right.
Anyway, Andy, thanks a million for your time.
Good to talk to you.
Hey, Jarrad, how are you keeping? You well?
Doing good, mate. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, not at all, not at all. It's an interesting December coming up for Connacht rugby, particularly in the Heineken Champions Cup. It's not an easy start.
No, it's kind of been an interesting couple of months in general. Kind of playing a game, not playing a game, but these next 7 weeks with the Champions Cup coming up, it's going to be pretty full on, but it's going to be exciting as well, and it's kind of my favorite part of the year anyway, as far as the games that you get to play.
I suppose that is one of the reassuring things about this. For all the change you've had this year, you're still getting that big, December double hit. Although for you guys, it's Bristol Bears, which will be exciting as well with their coach.
Yeah, exactly, mate. You want to play in the Champions Cup. It's the best teams from all over Europe. So to be a part of it again this year is extremely exciting. Although it is, it's a slightly different setup, but it's still two quality teams that we get to play, and we can't wait to get into it.
I suppose welcoming Pat Lam and John Muldoon back as well would be very different, obviously, because it wouldn't have been the same as before with a big raucous crowd giving them a bit of stick as well. But it'll surely still be fun for you guys.
Yeah, I know. I know that the Connacht fans definitely love having Pat Lam and Muldoon back at the sports ground. I remember the last time they're here, they got a bit of a cheer as they come out onto the field, supporting the wrong team. But no, it's always good to have them there. And Mul's a Galway man through and through, so he's back here every time he gets a bit of downtime as well. So I've seen him recently, but it'll be good to see him here with his Bristol kit on.
And I suppose as well, the no crowds aspect, is that something you've all adjusted to now? So you've had a good 5 or 6, 5 games this year and a couple last year as well, the back end. So are you used to it yet, or is it still just completely surreal?
You kind of get used to it. I think when you start thinking about it is when you notice. So it's more kind of in between, plays when there might be a little bit of downtime or something, and then you have a look around and it's just empty seats, and you kind of have to get yourself back focused on the task at hand, because you can get lost with it a little bit. But for the most part, I think guys understand now that that's just the way it is, and we have to be able to play and to kind of use no crowd or no atmosphere as an excuse now. It really, it just doesn't. It can't sit. You have to be able to perform in the situation that we've got at the moment.
Although I suppose if you look at some of the videos, you guys, when Bundy Akey is playing, he kind of makes up for much of the crowd noise that's missed, does he?
Man, he's a loud bugger. He prided himself when he was playing with us to bring some energy and be that guy to really lift the lads, and he definitely did that. And yeah, he probably made up for about half a stand there just by himself. But it's been tough not having Bundy around at the moment with on national duties. But it is what it is.
I suppose the way you guys have had it as well with losing those games through COVID, how has it been? If you're building up to a match normally on a Friday and that is then lost, and then what are you sort of doing to replace those kind of sessions and stuff like that? When, say last weekend when you lost the Ospreys game.
Yeah, that Ospreys one was difficult because I know it was so last minute. We had done our captain's run and everything, and we were getting ready to fly into the game. But it's just one of those ones you just kind of have to deal with it and move on to the next task. After the first week, it was pretty disappointing, and then the second week again. But this time around, you understand that that's just part and parcel of it. And we're just being pretty unlucky at the moment with three games being cancelled, postponed. But look, what you can do is worry about the next game, I suppose.
Yeah, and I suppose that's just the way it's. I mean, how difficult has that been for planning as well? Or is that really so much on you, or is this more on the coaches? Obviously you have an extra game now this coming weekend after not having the one against Ospreys.
Yeah, look, how they manage it, I'm not sure. I'm sure there's a whole lot of headaches and a whole lot of phone calls going on behind the scenes trying to reschedule things and plan. But our kind of main thing is we just can't look too far ahead. You just have to focus on it week to week, because you just don't really know how things are going to be panning out in the medium long term. You can just focus on the game coming, and if it gets postponed, then we just move on to the next one. And the hardest thing I think is just keeping morale up. So on the last Saturday there, we didn't have the game, but we got in and just had a gym session, just stayed around each other, keep it positive, and then just roll into the next week.
I suppose looking forward to the Heineken Champions Cup then, do you think there could be positive in that perhaps you have a bit more freshness, just because, a lot of other sports as well complain about these, like the games just coming at you thick and fast, and just through no fault of your own, through a few COVID postponements, you guys have ended up having a few rest weekends. Do you think that could help ultimately? Hopefully.
Yeah, 1 week on, 2 weeks off is lovely. Good for the old buggers like myself anyway. I don't know. I think, regardless of what happens when you get to those Championship Cup games, you just live for it, because it's, there's an excitement about it, there's a buzz about it. So maybe we'll have a little bit more freshness. We've definitely got a lot of guys starting to come back now from injuries, long-term injuries and the like. So that's been pretty exciting for the squad and for those guys in particular. But look, I think playing or not playing, when you get to the Championship Cup games, you bring a little something extra anyway.
I suppose as well, early next week, I suppose all the international guys will come back in as well. And what will that add to training?
Oh, geez, I think it adds that little extra of that 10% that you want sometimes. These guys that have got they come with a freshness. They've just been in the Irish camp. The standards have been high, more so there, you'd imagine. And you expect them to bring that back as well and help lift some of the other guys. So we've got a really good core squad here at the moment. And, the games we have been playing, we've been doing all right. But when you start getting your Bundys back, like you mentioned, your Karen Marmions, they just help lift the spirits. They help lift the quality of the training session, and that usually translates onto the pitch when it comes to the Saturday.
And so, speaking of pitches as well, I mean, your first trip is to the La Defense Arena with against Racing 92. I mean, that's a pretty different sort of venue as well, with or without a crowd.
Yeah, man, it's a pretty nice way to get the day started, I suppose. Get over there with a big screen. Yeah, I haven't really thought about it, to be honest, just yet. We just finished up hopefully our last game this weekend, get that one under the belt. But yeah, the prospect of going over there is pretty exciting, and getting the campaign underway with a good away win wouldn't hurt as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it's a different, I mean, it's just something completely different as well, like an indoor arena on the 5G with, like I said, the big TV screen down the bottom. But Andy Friend was saying it's something that could suit you guys, because obviously you want to play ball in hand and want to play a quick game.
Yeah, well, that's kind of been where we've been at our best, I think, this season, is when it's been drier. We've had the opportunity to move the ball around, and we pride ourselves in our fitness, and we've got a mobile forward pack, so I think it suits pretty well. Yeah, it's a far cry from the sports ground, but we're getting our new pitch coming up soon, so we'll be there taking notes of things we like, and we'll give them to the lads at the sports ground to see if we can sort something out here as well.
So you're just going to go to the Connacht board and say, yeah, put in a huge telly and a roof. That'd be great, yeah?
Yeah, that's it. It's like photos attached.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, for you guys, I mean, obviously you used to playing the sports ground. There is that kind of difference. You must be really looking forward to potentially having, a new ground with the way you guys are playing in that more exciting brand of rugby. It's almost like your venue is not particularly aligned to the way you want to play, with the wind and the rain and the mud.
Yeah. We should still try to play like that when you don't have the conditions. But, sometimes you just have to deal with a little bit. And, in saying that, other teams don't like to come into Galway as well because of the conditions. That it is tough when you've got when you've got the wind going sideways and the rain heaving down on you. So, we appreciate that as well. And we understand that, we train in this week in and week out. We have to be able to perform in these conditions as well. Will we prefer to be playing on a dry pitch? Yeah, but this is a winter sport as well, so you gotta make the most of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, look, Jarrad, I think my time is up there. So thanks a million for your time, and look, best of luck in those upcoming pool games in a pretty difficult December for you guys.
Thank you very much, mate. Cheers for the time.
Thanks, Jarrad.
All right, I'm delighted to be joined by Bristol's Pat Lam. Pat, I think we all knew once we saw the seedings were done for this competition and the way it was all lined up, it pretty much seemed inevitable. We were going to have Bristol and Connacht paired off. You know, regardless of the fact there were 24 teams in the competition, it just seemed like it was fate. It was always going to happen. And I don't think any of us were surprised to see those two teams paired off.
Well, I was hoping it wasn't going to be, but when I sort of saw it and I thought it got closer, I watched the draw live. And as he drew that ball out, they were in the same pool. I couldn't believe it. Well, you know, it probably was exactly a bit of fate. So I am looking forward to come back. Ideally, not necessarily now, but hey, it's once the draw was done, I said to John Muldoon and Conor McPhillips, I said, I think, you know, we potentially could be the Toulouse and the mindset of Connacht, in the sense when we were there, we went hard out. So I said, we've got to be on the money and get our job right in preparation. It's going to be one tough game.
Yeah, so that's coming up in round 2. And obviously, as you said, you know, you're the Premiership team coming to town. You'll have the target on your backs. But I suppose on the flip side, you'll probably know what the mindset is like for the Connacht players, because, you know, you were Andy Friend a few years ago. You were with those Connacht players and you had those big teams coming into town on a European weekend like you did in the 2016-17 season, like the Wasps and the Toulouse games. So you know the mindset that they're going to have. It's just dealing with it, isn't it? Exactly. It's being prepared for it. You know, there's still a lot of the players there than when I was there, and I know them. I know them well, and they're quality men. And there's no doubt the whole team will be pumped for this and excited for it. So yeah, you're exactly right. You know, we've got to make sure that we're ready for it as well. And so it does make it a big game when we get there in round 2. I suppose the pity is it's going to be behind closed doors, because, like, I've no doubt yourself, John Muldoon, Conor McPhillips, and even some of the players that you have in your own squad as well, who'd be ex-Connacht guys who may or may not be involved in the matchday squad. We don't know yet. But, you know, I'm sure everyone would have expected, if there was a crowd at the sports ground, there'd be a great reception there for you before the game. I mean, they'd tear the heads off you in those 80 minutes, but either side of kickoff and full time, I'm sure it'd be a fantastic reception and a great occasion as well. Well, yeah, and even, you know, like the frustrating thing, even when we get to Galway, you know, we'd probably be limited on where we can go, and obviously with COVID, you know, it would have been great to get out and see. I've got so many friends there, you know, outside of the rugby as well, from out Murray, Oromorway, all of that, from the kids' school. That's the shame, you know. You obviously you got to be careful there, but it would have been a great occasion. And sports ground, you know, normally it's 5, 6, and then they put the extra seats in, and you know, you get to 7,000 there, even 5, 6, it's like 40, 50,000 in the big stadiums. The atmosphere is tremendous, but I think it still will be a tough encounter. We get in. It was getting cold here the other day, and the weather, and we said, yeah, but it's still not like Galway. So I think we were prepared. The boys be ready. What's coming, you know. Yeah, those winter nights with the gale wind coming in off Galway Bay, there's nothing quite like it. Are there people you'd still keep in touch with back out that part of the world? Yeah, definitely. You know, Tim Orner, the team manager, you know, obviously, you know, was class and a good friend. So stay in touch with him, and obviously some of the players. Bundy's always in touch, you know, and he's going well too. But yeah, no, we still stay in touch with a lot of people in Galway, and certainly, you know, certainly some key people still there. I was looking back through the dates, and it is actually almost 4 years to the day since the news broke that you'd be leaving Connacht and going to Bristol, December 2016. Like the Bristol project as well, that was similar in a way to Connacht. I know there was maybe a bigger budget behind it, but a kind of a ground up project, because you're starting in the championship. You're at the start of season 4 now, and it seems to be going from strength to strength. There's promotion. There's a couple of good seasons where you're building. You get to Gallagher Premiership semi-finals last year, win the Challenge Cup, and here you are now. You know, you're probably in that conversation of favourites for the Premiership, and you're back in the Champions Cup as well. Yeah, I think if anyone looks at it closely, the similarities are massive. It's you take away the money, it's still like people, because we've got a billionaire owner, people think that, but it's the salary cap, and it's, you know, certainly, you know, Connacht will always be a massive highlight because of we had a very limited budget. But you take the money away, it's about the people,
It's about the quality of the staff. It's about the program. It's about the vision. Everything is geared around there. And it's funny, I was just talking about it with Conor McPhillips about analysis. And we're telling the other coaches what we had when I walked in. And actually, I didn't want Conor McPhillips. I wanted someone else. I wanted to bring my guy from New Zealand, but he was on contract. And we were telling people what we had. They said, "Are you serious?" And I remember saying to Conor at the time, "I want you to go find out what Leinster, Munster, and Ulster have. Find out how much staff, how much resources." And I went to the RFU and I said, "Look, if we're seriously going to compete, can we at least get on an even field in the analysis department?" And it was a lot of things like that because we had to change the mindset, get away from that we are, the fourth team, get away from the fact that we are, seen as a development thing, and maybe not even worry about what other people think. But I wanted everyone to aim high, that we want to be a Champions Cup team, that we want to be, go out and win the Pro 12, not just be part of it. And once you get that and get people along with that vision and that dream, and then we start thinking, behaving, and acting the right way, massive things can happen. And it's no different when I got here. People were, survival and get up to the Premiership. We said, no, we want to be Champions Cup. We want the next level. And then everyone knows what the ambition is, and you come in and grow it. So there's a lot of similarities in both teams, and it's not about money. You could name all the most teams that have a lot of money that aren't successful, and it really comes back to, are people, do they have a vision, and is everyone on the same page? And that's what we're trying to do here, which is similar to what we try to do at Connacht. And I'm glad that what I always said here and what I said there, that I'm going to leave someday, everyone's going to leave. It's about putting the structure and system in place that it can be long-lasting after people leave. And I think what we put in place at Connacht and hopefully what we put in at Bristol, I'm really pleased. I keep touching things are still going well. The structure's on and off the field, and they're still inspiring their community as well as we are doing here.
Mm-hmm. On your own side, and with the Heineken Champions Cup starting now as well, like looking through the pots, despite the fact you've added some great players in the last few months, Randrandra, Ben Earl, Kyle Sinclair, Max Malins. I know Earl and Malins are loan signings as well, and keeping Charles Piatow as well. But looking through those pots, like Pot B, we're talking 4 teams to come out of a pot of 12 teams. From a neutral point of view, I can probably say it, you probably won't. Pot B certainly looks tougher to come out of than Pot A does.
Yeah, I think it's certainly, all you can control. I think the structure of this is really interesting because you could win your 4 games and still not make it through. So everything rides on your performance and the consistency of your performance, and not only just winning, but winning well. So, it's going to be very intriguing because, normally everyone's playing each other, but everyone's got different games, and it's just about accumulating many points. But there is no easy games. That's why you want to be in the Champions Cup. It's the best of the best. That's why even in the Challenge Cup is tough when you get to the finals, because suddenly when we got there, Bordeaux, Toulon, who were top of the French league, you're playing those sort of teams. But the Champions Cup, the pool games are all like that as well. And that's why I was so keen to get Connacht there and now Bristol there, because you want to be playing, you want your players and the club to experience the best of the best in the Northern Hemisphere. And it's exciting. And
just final one then for me, Pat, before I leave you go. Premiership season finished late, only restarted in recent weeks. French teams have been pretty much non-stop since August. The Pro 14 teams have been back at it for a couple of months now. Any worries about just the amount of minutes that you might have in the legs?
No, I think it's like anything. If you look at Argentina, had hardly any rugby, and they come out and play and they beat the All Blacks. And you can look at everyone's been affected by COVID in different ways. It really comes back to mindset and preparation. We're all skewed. Some have played more, some have played less. Who's got the advantage? It really comes back to making sure that on the day and your preparation, which is why you need a really good program and good staff to ensure we know where everyone is, and then obviously the selection and getting the team right. So, it is just what it is at the moment with COVID, but my role is to make sure that when we get into it next week against Clermont at home, that we're all guns blazing, ready to go, because you can't afford to have a slow start in this competition. You need a good start, and then it just gets tougher as you go along.
All right, Pat, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I hope you enjoy your trip back to Galway in a couple of weeks' time.
Cheers, Neil. Good to see you, mate.